Representative Steve Anderson, thanks for joining us again. And maybe the last time as a state representative, we appreciate you joining us. You are a member of the outgoing House of Legislature as we are here. And what are your thoughts on your kind of last day as you wrap up the...
what happens next, so to speak? Well, we have 2 days left, or really now 1 day, because we just completed today. Not much took place today. We gavelled in and gavelled out, basically. But we met and we talked about tomorrow's action. And I think we're going to see two bills come up, one on the Tollway Authority and abolishing the existing Tollway Authority and replacing them with new, and then another one to potentially increase the possible salary range for district and agency administrators. I think that the first one, the tollway issue, is really it's more significant than I think people will instantly realize. And the reason for that is that this is an opportunity for what I call a kumbaya moment, right? We're going into a new administration. The governor-elect supports the concept of reconstituting the Tollway Authority because it looks like that there's been a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse that's been going on there. So do the Republicans. By picking a bill like this and moving this forward right now is a chance for the legislature and the executive branch right at the very beginning, literally before the beginning for the governor-elect, to start something fresh and new and agree. I think you're going to see a lot of support for that tomorrow on the House floor. I think it'll pass, maybe not unanimously, but I think probably darn close. And that to me is a great reason to be optimistic, because the idea that the Republicans and the Democrats are working hard to start this place again in a positive manner speaks volumes to me about who we are.
You know, not to just have this be an exit interview, and you've touched on a number of points as we are here at the Capitol and as old friends talking to each other. One of the things that I will tell people that has kind of, I think, come about and evolved is that everyone, I think there is a new sense of optimism, as you said, that first of all, we have something like 50 new members between the House and Senate, new members of the legislature. Some of the old guard is now gone. We're obviously going to have a new governor, and you know, rightly or wrongly, depending how you look at it, but Governor Rauner and obviously his fight with the Speaker Madigan led to 4 years of highly contentious partisan issues that I think everyone became weary of, and I think a lot of people are looking forward to kind of going back to what maybe had been the norm before the Rauner administration, or even further back, because we've had some craziness in the past, both under Governor Blagojevich as well. Right. As you talk to the members that are coming in, or the members you've served with, do you also get that same sense?
So I do, and I share that optimism for a reboot, if you will, or a restart of that positive approach. Now, I will tell you, not everyone shares that point of view. There are a lot of people in my caucus who are just not happy being as much of a super minority as we are. But when I asked some of them who are coming in, or those who are returning, said, now, we're in the super minority, but you have a choice. You can either be a no vote over and over and over again, or you can start to be a yes vote, but influence the policy more at the edges, understanding we're not driving the bus, but you can influence policy still. You can make a difference. What are you going to be? You're going to be just a no, or are you going to try to influence policy at the edges where you can? Great majority of them said the latter, that they're going to want to influence policy in a positive way. But what that means is they're going to have to vote yes on things they might not love, but that they can make a difference on. And when I hear members coming in with that attitude, because that's a pragmatic attitude, that says volumes. I said that expression already, but again, it says volumes about who we are and what we can accomplish. Because I know that the new governor-elect wants that. I've heard him say it. I've heard him say it personally, where his idea is he really respects the idea of bipartisanship. He recognizes that if he passes everything with his supermajority and no Republican votes, all those efforts are one election from being wiped away. The only thing is,
we see that at the federal level.
Absolutely. So the only thing that sticks around here are things that actually get passed in a bipartisan way. I think he recognizes that. I know Jim Durkin is ready to work with him. I absolutely know that. And I believe that Jim, as a leader of our caucus, will be able to do that. Now, does that mean we're going to agree on everything? Of course not. And the Republican caucus is going to fight hard on the things that are principled, conservative issues for them. But that doesn't mean we have to be obstreperous. That doesn't mean we have to be, arguing in bad faith. I think that there is going to be a new opportunity here, and I certainly hope my colleagues take it, to rebuild those relationships that let government work.
I'm going to ask you some other questions, both on your personal experience and reflections at this time, but let me stay for a moment in the realm that we're talking in, and because the Republicans Illinois is already a Democratic state, right, but the Republicans took such a shellacking in this past election. Even some of the House members that survived by less than 50 votes. I mean, and others lost their seats by just a handful of votes.
Correct.
Where does the Republican Party, do you think, go? What's the future of the Republican Party from this point? Because it seems to me the whole Rauner experience, and I don't mean to sit here and demonize the Governor Rauner, but the experience of a Governor Rauner, as we already somewhat touched on, changed the environment here in the state, within the state capitol, the relationships, they were so contentious, but also because he brought in such a pot of money from a single source that also kind of changed, I think, the dynamics of the Illinois Republican Party. So with all that in mind, kind of where do you see the Republican Party going in the future?
So the Republicans have a challenge in front of us. We have to figure out how to be relevant in the absence of all of that. The money is a huge factor. I will grant you that, but we also saw that money didn't make a difference. What happened was we experienced not a blue wave, but a blue tsunami. So the money in the end isn't, to me, the issue. It's about finding out who we are again. Because if all we are is the party of no, or we're only about cutting taxes, I'd like to cut taxes. I raised them, everybody knows that. I'd like to cut them where possible. But we have to be more than that. We have to be about something. Where's the excitement about being a Republican when we aren't talking about social issues? We aren't on the cutting edge of those issues. We need to start letting our colleagues in the Republican Party be more than they are right now. So downstate, for example, downstate Republicans, I think they are what they need to be. Very conservative socially, very conservative fiscally. But if you want the Republican Party to be successful in the suburbs, well, you got to start rethinking that, and you got to say it might be okay for us to be fiscally conservative, but socially either moderate or perhaps even liberal on some subjects. That sort of a party, when you have that diversity in it, and by the way, we actually need diversity too, not just men and women, but we need LGBTQ members, we need African American members, we need Asian Americans, you name it. If we become a party that is more diverse, more reflective of our state as a whole, and we embrace the social issues that I think we are not limited by. Republicans don't have to be against going forward on those issues. If we do those things, we become a party that's more viable. Right now, when you ask what's a Republican is a guy who wants to cut funding to services. That's not a popular message right now, and that's what happened in this last election. We were just about cutting, and people were suffering. That's not good enough. We need to be more than that. We need to be about something.
As we stand here, as we stand here, I think anyone who pays any kind of attention knows that Illinois financially is approaching the brink. And whether you're a Republican or a Democrat doesn't matter, because you're facing the opposition is math. The math isn't working for the state. The state's budget is unfunded or in deficit again. The state pensions are massively underfunded. With that as a background, what does that have an impact, do you think, on the way people are looking forward, that Governor Pritzker would be looking forward, that, hey, it's not like we can go out and be liberal now because we just don't have the money in the bank anymore, so to speak. To what extent will the reality of the fiscal crisis that we are approaching going to dictate the terms of how this state is governed over the next 4 years?
So I'd answer that a couple of ways. One is not every social bill or social issue involves a dollar amount to the state. There are a lot of issues. In fact, I would probably argue that some of the more contentious issues on that don't involve state dollars. They're about principles. And I think a lot of the voters pay a lot more attention to those issues than they do the bottom line. I think that a lot of people are not aware in the state of the dire financial straits we've been in and that we continue to be. I am glad to say that because of the work we did last year that we're better than we would have been without the tax increase that we did. So, but when you ask the question of where do we go as far as governing and how does the math impact our ability to govern, it has to. And there's only really three solutions, and one of them isn't much of a solution, but it's either raise revenues, cut expenses, or borrow, right? I mean, there's not many more math opportunities there or a combination of the three. Which is the right answer? I'm not in the legislature in 2 days, so I'm going to let the incoming governor and the incoming legislature parse that one out. But as I always say, usually good government happens in the middle. So maybe there's a blend of those elements that can be done. You know, when we talk about the pensions, you know, we have a very steep ramp that we're on right now for paying those pensions. You could look at extending that out. You could look at re-ramping it to lower the payments. Would that mean we're paying more in the end? Absolutely, we'd be paying more. But it's kind of like, I use the metaphor of my own home. Maybe I bought my home and got a 15-year mortgage because I had a great job and everything was looking sunny. But then at some point, I lost my job or I got a lesser job, things aren't looking as good. I have a choice. Do I lose the house or do I refinance to a 30-year mortgage that I can actually afford? The answer for me would be simple. I refinance to something I can afford. Will I pay more in the end? Absolutely. But will I also have a house? Kind of literally here, I will. So to me, those are the sort of pragmatic answers that either side can hopefully work on and work together. There's a good news to it being a math problem. Math has some certainty. And so there is the ability to get down to it and say, look, we know we disagree about these things, but math in the end is going to govern this, so we just have to face that. Now, if you have legislators who are brave enough to do that, and that'll be the key, if you have legislators who are brave enough to face the facts of the math, we can actually do a lot of good in this state.
As we stand here, as we already said, you got like maybe a day and a half of being a legislature. What's the future hold for Steve Anderson?
Well, I've never left my law practice, so I still am an attorney up in the Kane County area. That will probably continue. Beyond that, I'll see what the future has to hold. Nothing is in concrete yet, and we'll just see where I end up.
Steve Anderson, we appreciate over the years you joining us, and good luck to you in the future.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.